Canada welcomed approximately 432,000 immigrants last year and is on track to welcome 500,000 immigrants this year and also next year. But how many of them will stay?
So-called onward migration, that's immigrants who come and then leave, has been creeping up silently for decades, and it's gone pretty unnoticed.
Hello everyone, my name is Diakola. I have lived in Canada for over 20 years, and on this channel I share content on growing older and wiser as an immigrant. Welcome back to this side of life. And if you're new here, welcome, and thank you all for joining me today. So diving into today's video, I have always talked on this channel about how you need to do your thorough research before making the life-changing decision to migrate from wherever you are to another country. So in today's video, I am going to address some of the reasons why immigrants make all the effort to come to Canada only to decide to leave, and what you can do to avoid becoming part of that statistic. In recent news, Canada is said to be leaking immigrants, with the numbers leaving increasing to over 31% above average in 2017 and 2019. So if you choose to come to Canada, here are some of the things you need to be aware of and be prepared for, so you will not end up coming and then deciding to leave. The first thing you need to be aware of is the tough job market. Canada's job market is not for the faint of heart. It is a very competitive job market because there are people from all over the world coming into Canada and all looking for jobs at the same time. There are people from India, so many people from China, so many people from even Europe, so many people from Africa. And so the job market is very competitive. And so you would need to have the right qualifications and the right experience to be able to get into the job market. And even with your qualifications and your experience, Canadian employers will always still ask you for Canadian experience. That is always a problem, because how do you get the experience if you are not employed? So unless your skills are in very high demand, like maybe some of those high-tech IT skills, then you might need to go to school, write exams, or take up a transition job while you do this, or volunteer for a while so that you can gather the Canadian experience that you need to get into a job. Having said that though, there are labor shortages in some areas of the economy, like in the manufacturing area, in the high-tech area, like I said, and in the healthcare area. So you might need to target those particular jobs. If you decide to come to Canada, or if you decide to stay in Canada, you might need to target some of those particular types of jobs. And also, the government in Canada is trying to solve this immigrant job issue. I read the other day that there is talk of legislation to ban employers from asking for Canadian experience, and that will help immigrants. There's also a push for fair credential recognition, which will require regulatory bodies to remove unfair bias from credential recognition in 29 professions. And I will try and list the 29 professions here if possible. All these changes, however, will take some time. So if you are planning to come to Canada soon, then while these things are being worked on, you will still need to do what we talked about earlier. The next thing is taxes. I do have a video on taxes that I will link here or here if you're interested. And also I'm planning to do a video about the first paycheck shock syndrome that immigrants go through when they come to Canada. When people finally get the job that they are looking for in their profession, and then they are looking forward to the paycheck. And when they get the paycheck, they are so surprised by how much of it goes into taxes. My husband was, almost everybody I know was surprised by that first paycheck, because you never think that you are going to pay that much tax. Yes, we do get the services like better than back home, but the taxes are high. And that's why you need to be financially wise. You need to do tax planning, you need to plan your expenses, and you need to learn to invest your money and be wise about how you allocate your money to different things when you do earn your money. And if you do all that, you should be fine. And the next thing is housing affordability. And yes, the Canada that I came to 20 years ago is definitely different from today's Canada. Back then, our first apartment that we got was, I think, about $730, and that was a 2-bedroom apartment. Nowadays, if you want a 2-bedroom apartment, you have to have at least $1,500. That's like more than twice the cost that it was 20 years ago. And wages have not kept pace with that kind of inflation. So yeah, it is more difficult. Housing is more difficult. Immigrants, newcomers find it difficult to find accommodation. I've heard people saying that, they have to pay like multiple months, which is unheard of, like in Canada. Because of the high mortgage rates now, landlords don't want to give out their houses to people who will not pay. So they want to make sure that you are able to pay. And if you're a newcomer, you don't have any credit history, you don't have any history in Canada, they do not want to rent their house out to you. To be able to get that house, you might need to pay multiple months rent. And buying is not easy as well. Like the houses have also, from 20 years ago, doubled in price. And so it's not easy to be able to afford to buy a house either, even for people who are here who are not immigrants. They are also finding it not too easy because of the high interest rates. So you need to be prepared for that, and you are probably not going to be able to live in a spacious apartment with many rooms. You might need to dumb down your expectations and maybe look for more affordable alternatives, like in some areas you can get basement suites, which are cheaper than apartments, and you might need to share with another person if you are single or something like that. So you need to adjust your expectation and look at those less expensive options. You might need to also think of going to less expensive areas. You may not be able to live in Toronto, you may not be able to live in Vancouver, you may not be able to live in the big centers. You might need to go to smaller cities where housing is cheaper. If you are getting any value from this video, please take a moment now to hit the like button. This really goes a long way to help the channel to grow. Thank you very much. Number 3 reason why immigrants are leaving Canada is social isolation. It is not going to be like back home or like Nigeria, where you have your family around the corner, you can drop your kids with your neighbors and the familiar environment and all that, and familiar people. Yes, it's a new place. You're going to have to build a new network. You're going to have to learn how to get out of your comfort zone and make friends. There's so many community associations that you can participate in. For example, Nigeria, we have a big, thriving Nigerian association here where I live, and you can be part of that. You start to have friends who become like family, closer than even your own brothers and sisters. Grandmas and grandpas for your children who are not related to you. And that is one of the beauties of being an immigrant, developing and building that community. So this particular point, this social isolation, is really in your hands to solve, because it depends on how you are open to make new friends and build a new network. The high cost of housing leads me to the next one, which is high cost of living and inflation. Yes, Canada is not immune to what is going on all over the world, which is hyperinflation. Things have become more and more expensive, especially after the pandemic. In Canada, prices just shot up, and what we used to spend on groceries, clothes, and everything else just has gone up. So coming to Canada, you will need to have strategies for spending your money, strategies for saving your money. Things like buying in bulk, going to farmers market, or even going to thrift stores to buy certain things, cutting your coat according to your size. Then of course, we have the weather. There is not much you can do about the weather. And if you are coming to Canada and you don't know, or you are not aware that Canada is cold, then I really don't know what to tell you. Canada is cold. It is cold for like half of the year. Even those who are born here complain about the cold. And some will go elsewhere during the cold months and come back during the warmer months. So as for the weather, you just have to adapt. And I guess if you cannot adapt, then there's nothing anybody can do about that. You just have to wear the right gear. I do have another video that I did about the weather in Canada. I will link it here or here, about what you need to do, how you need to prepare for the winter and live through the cold months, looking forward to the warmer months, which are always great anyway, and make up for the colder months of the year. Finally, I'll talk about healthcare, People do complain about the healthcare system in Canada. Although it is free, we do have long wait times. And I'm not sure if you can have it both ways. I mean, have free healthcare without the long wait times. I'm not sure if that's even a possibility. But yeah, in Canada, there are long wait times. You may have to wait a long time as a newcomer to get a family doctor. That is a common thing because there's a shortage of doctors. And if your health issue is not life-threatening, yes, you may have to wait a long time to be able to see a specialist. They kind of triage the cases that they have and will prioritize those who are really, really serious, that like life-threatening cases. But the thing though is, when you do get into the system, when you are admitted into the system, it is a very good healthcare system, but the wait times are the issue. So to be able to deal with that, you just need to understand the system and also advocate for yourself. That's one thing I've found in Canada. You need to advocate for yourself and your family members if you are in any health crisis. And also pray that you will not have life-threatening issues that will land you on the bad side of the Canadian healthcare system. But if you care to know, my own experience with the healthcare system has been good so far. So those are some of the reasons why people decide to leave Canada, and some tips for you on how you can avoid being in that number. Of course, you may still decide to leave Canada and go back to your home country, or you may find greener pastures elsewhere. I mean, Canada is not heaven like many people like to say. You may find greener pastures elsewhere. We have friends who had like 5-year, 10-year plan for Canada, and after those number of years, they packed their stuff and went back to Nigeria. And we have people also who found, better jobs, better opportunities in other countries, and so they left Canada. But that is of their own choice. So hopefully, if you do decide to leave Canada, it will be by choice, not because you were unprepared or because you had no choice but to leave. Some people will stay and some people will leave. God's plan for everybody, like I always say, is different. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me again. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. Are you planning to leave Canada? Are you planning to come to Canada? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know whenever I upload new videos. Also, stay tuned to this channel for more interesting content coming your way. Until I come your way again, until the next video, you go out and make it the best days of your life. Bye.